Hello, cadets. This is Mr. Storm, and today we're going to actually make something, which is really exciting. You're going to write your first computer program, and I'm excited to try it out. I cannot wait to see what you guys come up with. This project is going to be very, very simple. It's going to be very easy to complete, and hopefully by walking through these steps, step by step, you will be able to see how a program is created. So for this assignment, you're going to build your first application. This is called Hello World. Now, Hello World is usually the first application computer programmers create in a new language. And so you're following a very long and storied tradition in programming, which is your first program is going to be Hello World. So we're actually going to create Hello World today. So this program is going to have a couple things in it. One, it's going to have a statement that prints the words Hello World onto the screen, onto the console screen. You're going to have a statement that changes the background color of the console screen. You're going to have a statement that changes the text color of the console screen. And you're going to have another statement that prints some more words onto the console screen. And then that fifth requirement down there, statements that make the program wait for user input so I can read the text. That is only for users who are using Visual Studio. And I'll talk about that very slight change once we get into the program itself. So Visual Studio is a bit wonky with how it deals with some of this stuff. So we'll talk about that in a minute. So let's actually get into it. Let's start working on our first program. So I'm here in Replit. I've already logged in, and I'm going to choose a C# program. Remember, all of your programs you make in this class will be C#. So I'm going to click C#. And it will create a new program for me. So before I move past this point, I want to give my program a name. I'm going to call this Hello World. Okay, so now my program is called Hello World. All right, let me get rid of this side menu because I don't need it for right now. Now let's talk about what we're looking at here. This may seem a bit confusing, but bear with me. I will explain what all of this stuff means, and then you will hopefully be a bit more comfortable with it once we're done. Okay, so the first thing I want you to notice is down the side here we have numbers 1 through 7. These numbers indicate the line of text that we are highlighting, right? So for example, line 1 is here, line 2 is here, line 3 is here, line 4, 5, 6, 7. And as we add more instructions to our computer program, we're going to have more and more lines that pop up. Okay, beautiful. Let's talk about line 1 real quick. What we can see here is we have something, we have two words. We have using system and then a semicolon. So using system. Using is a keyword that tells me that we are accessing a library. A library is essentially just a collection of computer code that we don't have to rewrite every time we want to make a new program. We can import libraries, and then the library can give us some shortcuts. So here's all you need to know about libraries right now in our very basic, very early understanding of programming. Don't play around with libraries, okay? Leave the using system library alone. Do not delete it, don't get rid of it, don't move it, don't change it. Okay, let's leave that alone because we do not want to mess anything up. Line 2 is blank, just to give us some space between our libraries and our main program. Now, here's the fun part about this compiler is that white space does not matter. Okay, so all of this isn't read by the compiler, so it's just for our sanity. We can add some white space in the program and space it out a bit. Okay, line 3, we have class, main class. Okay, here's what this means. Think about a class as essentially a container that holds your program, okay? You can have multiple programs within a class and multiple classes within an overall project, but this is just a container for the program, okay? Now, I can tell that this container includes all of these other lines of code by looking at this bracket right here. Now, brackets are incredibly important in C#, and it's very important that we maintain our brackets and where they are in the program. At some point, let's say you accidentally delete a bracket. Let's delete this one here. When we try to run our program, it's not going to be able to run because we have something called bracket confusion, meaning our program is really confused because it's supposed to see a bracket down here, but it doesn't. So I'm going to add that back in and run our program so that it actually works. Okay, so make sure you're maintaining these brackets. Now, I can tell that this bracket is associated with this bracket. Its companion bracket is on bracket or on line 7. That means that everything from this bracket down to that bracket is included within the class. Now, here's one trick that I use to help keep my brain a little bit, to organize this stuff a bit. If we go over to this bracket and I hit enter, essentially pushing that bracket down to line 4, notice how this bracket and that bracket are now on the same indentation level. This is super helpful because now it's very clear to see that the bracket on line 4 and the bracket on line 8 are associated with each other, and everything in between those belongs inside of the main class. Okay, perfect. So let's take a look at line 5. Line 5 says public static void main string args. Okay, so essentially what this means is this is our program. So we will get into explaining exactly what all of this stuff means later on in the class. For right now, you just need to know that that statement is a shortcut for this is my program. So again, we have brackets here. So there's a bracket at the end of line 5 and a bracket on line 7. I'm going to do the same trick as I used for the main class up there to keep myself more organized. So now I know that what's inside of the program is this one instruction written on line 7. And this instruction is hello world. So if you notice, we've already actually completed the first thing here, which is create a statement that prints the words hello world to the screen. That was done for us automatically by Replit. So hello world pops up on the screen. If I hit play, we can see over here, hello world pops up. Okay, great. Now let's talk about why this is happening and how this happens. So if we look at line 7, we see the first word here is console. Now, you may have heard me refer to this window right here as the console window. Okay, this is the console window. This is the same thing as in Windows if I type CMD and I open up a command. Wow, my computer's being very slow today. Come on. If I open up a command prompt, come on. So this is a command prompt. This is a, oh, hello, I opened 2 now. So this is a command prompt. This is a console window. So this is essentially my operating system in Windows, and I can type instructions to my console and make my operating system, make Windows do stuff. This is what we're emulating over here. We're emulating that console window. So I'm sending instructions to the console. Now, I have this period here. Notice that there are no spaces on either sides of the period. Okay, it's just console, period, right line. Okay, that's very important. If you put a space in here, for example, if I overwrote my period, even better, right? If I don't include the period and just type console right line and hit run, again, it's going to get confused. Now, Replit is very good about trying to help me figure out what my problem is. So it says there's an error, unexpected symbol, expecting either a comma or a semicolon or whatever. Now, it didn't quite figure out what the problem was. It's just really confused. Computers, they don't think about things the same way human beings do. And so for us, I can look at that and go, oh, I didn't type the period here in between console and right line. So let me do that. Let me add that in. The computer is going to try to guess what you were trying to do, and it may come up with the correct answer. It may not. Debuggers are notoriously bad at helping you find the problem. So it's going to require you to understand what you're doing so that you can find your own problems. Debugging is a huge part of computer programming. By the way, we're only about 10 minutes into this video. I can tell you a quick little gee whiz. Do you guys know why it's called debugging in computer programming? Well, it doesn't matter if you know or not, because I'm about to tell you. So back in, the early days of computing, computers used to be huge. They used to take up entire rooms, right? And they used to be these large mechanical things that, had wires going everywhere and cathode ray tubes and everything else, right? Switches and stuff, right? So they used to be these big beasts, these big mechanical beasts. Well, as you can imagine, that probably invites a lot of, critters, insects and rodents to come in and start chewing on cables or getting themselves lodged into circuits and frying circuits. And so whenever there was a problem with a computer, early computer programmers would have to dig through the machine to try to find where a critter may have, lodged themselves in a machine. So there was a problem on a computer in the early days. This is a urban legend. There was a problem on a computer and someone went in there to fix the problem. They found a moth that had wedged themselves into the circuit, fried the circuit. So they grabbed the moth, they taped it to a piece of paper and wrote, "I found the bug." And so bug became shorthand for a problem in a computer program. Okay, so anyway, so debuggers will help you find problems, but they're not great. So it's on you to use your critical thinking skills to find the problems. Okay, that was a sidetrack. Okay. But it only took a minute and a half, so who cares? Okay, so we are writing instructions to the console, so it's console, and then we have this period, which means, hey, what's going to follow after the period is the instruction that I want to write to the console. And for our purposes, the instruction is write line. Notice that there's no space in between write and line, and notice that the W and the L in write line are capitalized. Now a write line command needs to be followed by these parentheses, and then what's inside the parentheses will be what is displayed on the screen. Now notice we have quotes here as well. The quotes tell us that we want to display exactly what is between the quotes, spaces and all, exactly the way it's formatted, okay? So a console.writeLine to the screen. Now, let's take a look at the second thing. We need a statement that changes the background color of the console screen. So here's the deal. I want to change this background, okay? It's this kind of black background. I want to change it to something else. So I'm going to type console. Now notice, let me do that again. Notice as I type, Replit kind of tries to guess what I'm looking for. And it brings up this little tool. I can either hit tab or I can click on it to auto finish what I'm typing. So console and then dot, because I'm going to give the console an instruction. Now the instruction I want to give it is not write line, it's background color. I want to change the background color. Okay, and I'm going to say the background color equals console color dot, let's say blue. Okay, so this is going to change my background to blue. Let's hit play and see what happens. Okay, now here's the thing. Notice that hello world still pops up, but the background color is still black. Well, down here it's changed the background color of this specific line to blue. So I can change specific lines. Now I wanted it to change the whole background color. So here's what we need to do instead. This statement still works. We just need to clear the console so that all of the lines change to that blue background color. So we're going to console dot clear. Okay. Now we need an open and close parentheses after clear in order for it to work properly. So far we have a write line command, a background color command, and a clear command. So I'm going to go ahead and hit play and see what happens there. Okay, so my background color is changed properly, but notice that my words went away. Hello world went away. Now why do you think that is? Well, it's because my clear command down here will clear out anything that's on my screen, okay? So I actually want to get rid of this statement up here, and instead of getting rid of it, how about I just highlight it and drag it down to there. Just change the order of my program so that whenever I hit run, I can actually see hello world as it pops up. Okay, beautiful. Now, maybe I don't want hello world to be white. Maybe I want to change the text, and that is a requirement here, a statement that changes the text color of the console screen. So let's change the text color. So I'm going to go down here. Now notice that I'm doing it above the hello world statement because I want the text color of hello world to change. If I did it after the hello world statement, then hello world would stay white, and any text that showed up after that would be the new color. Does that make sense? Okay, good. So let's do console dot, and instead of background color, it's going to be foreground color. Foreground color. And this is going to be equal to console color dot, let's see, red would look really gross, and so I don't want to use red. Let's just use black. Let's change the color to black. And let's run that and see what that looks like. Okay, that's a bit better. I mean, it looks fine. I like it. Okay, so now at this point, we have completed everything except for this last thing, which is another statement which adds some text to the screen. So console dot write line. This is my first program. Okay, let's test it out, see if it works. All right, I've changed my background color. I've changed my foreground color. I've written some stuff to the screen. Now at this point, I have a perfect score on this assignment. Now some of you are thinking, okay, well, but what is that fifth thing down there? Statements that make the program wait for user input. Now in Replit, we don't really have to worry about that at all because Replit will wait for me, okay? But if we're using Visual Studio or another IDE that is a desktop IDE, whenever we hit run, it will actually pull up a console window like I did with the command prompt. Now, if we don't tell the program to wait for the user, then it will pull up, it will show the stuff it wants to show, and then it will go away. It'll automatically close itself out. So if you're using Visual Studio, you might be frustrated at this point because you're thinking, I've been testing it out, I've been hitting the play, and nothing is happening. It pops up real quick and then goes away. So here's how you solve that problem. At the bottom of your program, you want to write this command, console.readLine with an open and close parentheses. That will make your code, your program, stay open until you hit a button, okay? Now, again, if you're using Replit, you actually don't need to write the read line because, again, it will do it for you. But if you're on Visual Studio, you want to write in a read line. I'm going to get rid of it because we're on Replit. Okay, at this point, we're basically done. Now all I have to do is turn in this assignment. So just one more really quick example. Let me show you how to turn in your assignment. You want to hit the Files button here. You want to come over here and hit the 3 dots and go to Download as Zip. It will download onto the desktop. I want to put it on the desktop and click Save. And then once I get it, I can drag out. Now I already have a main.cs, so I'm going to delete that so it doesn't cause any problems. Now once I open it, now notice I have main application and main.cs. I'm looking for the main.cs, okay? So I'm going to drag out main.cs. Now this is the file that I'm going to turn in on Canvas, okay? Beautiful. So if you followed along with these steps, if you followed along, if this is easy enough for you, if you've got this figured out, then honestly, this is going to be a great class for you. Because at this point, you've learned a whole lot in just this one really simple, very basic program. If you want to know how many colors you can use in the console, you can just Google, console colors. It'll tell you what those commands are. C# console colors. It'll tell you how many console colors you have available. Play around with this, have fun with it. Okay, we're almost to 20 minutes, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this. At this point, you know how to do the assignment, you know how to turn in the assignment, so let's get this turned in, and then we can move on to something more advanced next week. All right, thanks for paying attention, and I'll see you next time.